Hey guys, you're welcome back to my channel today. Thank you so much for stopping by. In this video, we'll be cutting this stylish bustier blouse that you can see on your screen. If you're interested, keep on watching and let's get started. I'll start by taking my point. The first point is the distance from my shoulder to my bust point, which is 10 inches. The next point is the distance from my shoulder to my under bust point, which is 13 inches. The next point is the distance from my shoulder to my waist point, which is 16 inches. From my waist point, I went down by another 7 inches, which is going to be the length of my blouse. After doing that, I went ahead to rule straight lines across all the points. So you can go ahead and determine the length of your blouse. From the waistline, just go down by 5, 6 inches, 4 inches, depending on how long you want your blouse to be. The next thing I'm doing is marking half of my shoulder measurement. Half of my shoulder measurement is 8 inches, but I went ahead to add half an inch to that measurement. So I marked 8.5 inches on the shoulder line. Because of the style on the shoulder, you can see that the shoulder has ruffles. So I didn't place my actual shoulder measurement. Okay, so whatever your shoulder measurement is, go ahead and add half an inch to it. After doing that, I went down on that point by 1 inch for my shoulder slope and I slant from there into the neckline area. The next thing I did was to go down by my round armhole circumference divided by 2. Okay, mine is 8 inches. So from the shoulder slope, I came down by 8 inches. So this 8 inches mark is going to serve as my chest line. So another way to get your chest line is to divide your bust circumference by 6. Whatever you get, you add 1.5 inches to that measurement. So what I did was to make sure I have the same 8.5 inches that I have on the shoulder line. I have it on the chest line. Then I connected the two dots into a straight line. What I'm doing now is dividing the straight line into two equal halves. I did that by folding my tape into two and I marked the center. On that center point, I'm going to come in by half an inch and I will indicate the half an inch with a dot. The next thing I'll do now is to label my pattern paper so I don't get confused. After doing that, I'm going to place my bust circumference divided by 4 on the chest line. I'll also indicate that with a dot. The next thing I'll do now is to connect from the shoulder slope to meet the dots at the half an inch dot and from there to meet the dots that I have on the chest line like this. From the center front, I'll take half of my nipple to nipple measurement, which is 4 inches. I'll mark 4 inches on the blouse length, on the waistline, on the under bust line, on the bust line, and on the chest line. And I'll connect the 5 dots into a straight line. After doing that, on the under bust line, I'm going to go out by 1 inch on the side front. I'll mark 1 inch on the under bust line, on the waistline, and on the blouse length. And for this center front, I also mark 1 inch. Okay, this 1 inch will make it easy for me to stitch them back together. But if you're on a bigger side, you can take 1.5 inches on the side front. Maintain the 1 inch on the center front and take 1.5 inches on the side front. After doing that, I came down by 1 inch from the bust line and I'm using the curved part of my ruler to connect from that 1 inch to meet the under bust line, as you can see me doing. I also connect on this other side like this. So after connecting, blend any sharp edge. The next thing I'll do is to determine how deep I want my neckline to be. Because I don't want it to be too deep, I'm going up from my chest line by 2 inches. Okay, so after marking the 2 inches, I'm going to rule a straight line across, just like you can see me doing. After doing that, I'll take my neck width of 3 inches and for the depth I'll be using 6 inches. So I'm doing a V neckline. I'll connect from the neck width to meet the neck depth like this. After doing that, I'm going to extend my dart leg to meet these 2 inches that I came up with, and then I'm going to tighten my over bust. To do that, I'll be using 1 inch on the side front and 1 inch on the center front. So I'm going to mark 1 inch on both sides of the straight line and I'll connect to the bust line, as you can see me doing. So go ahead and also blend any sharp edge. So the next thing I'll do is to start placing my measurements. On the chest line, I already have my bust circumference divided by 2. So I replaced this dart of the dart of 2 inches, and I'm adding 1.5 inches for my stitching allowance. On the under bust point, I'll place my under bust circumference divided by 4. I'll replace this 2 inches dart and I'll add 1.5 inches for my stitching allowance. On the waistline, I'll place my waist circumference divided by 4. I'll replace the dart of 2 inches and I'll add 1.5 inches for my stitching allowance. On the blouse length, I'll place my hip circumference divided by 4. I'll replace the 2 inches dart. I'll add 1.5 inches for my stitching allowance and I'll add another 1.5 inches for ease allowance. You know the waistline of this blouse is not tight. So altogether I added extra 3 inches allowance to the hip line. Okay, sorry, the blouse length, you can also call it the hip line. So what I'm doing now is connecting from the bust line to the waistline, from the waistline to the blouse length, and I'm going to go ahead and blend the sharp edge on the side. So the next thing I'll do now is to create the effect that we have on the base of the blouse. So on this center front, I'm going up by 2.5 inches. If you want it deeper, you can go up more. I'll also find the middle point from this dart leg to the end of the side. I'll find the middle, I'll mark the middle. So I'm going to connect like this in a curve to meet this dart leg. So go ahead and just connect in a curve. Make sure it has this curvy effect. After doing that, I'll blend my darts together and make sure that the line touches the other side of the pattern paper. Okay, because we are cutting this part out, I want to make sure that when I'm joining the fabric together, the sides align. So I connected from that center all the way to this other side, and on this end I went up by another 2.5 inches, but I later changed my mind and I went up by 4 inches because my blouse length is already long and I also want this side to be really sharp. Okay, so the next thing I did was to divide what I have on the shoulder. I divided it by 2 and then I marked 1 inch apart. Okay, 1 inch, another 1 inch, just like that. And then I decided to go up by 4 inches, just like I said. And then I came out by half an inch and I blended it, just like you see me doing. So you can do whatever you want to do for the waist area. So the next thing I did was to extend this 2 inches mark that I came up with. I'm thinking of making my blouse a 2 blouse. So I'm removing the armhole area from the side. And I also want a sweetheart neckline. So I'm connecting from the dart leg to the previous chest line, as you can see. On the shoulder, I'm going to be rolling straight lines on the 1 inch that I marked. So you can decide to do a slash and spread method for the shoulder area, or you can just cut out a long piece of fabric and you gather it around the shoulder. But if you are doing a slash and spread method, this is how you should do it. So after doing that, I went ahead to cut. So this is the style you can see on the thumbnail. It's a bustier top, but for mine I want to alter this pattern into a corset pattern. So first of all, I'm going to erase the sweetheart neckline. Okay, but if you're not doing a corset, if you're not sewing a corset, you can just cut out the dart, open up the dart, and that is all for the front. So what I want to do now is to alter this pattern to a corset pattern. First of all, I'll relabel my lines and then I'm going to maintain the previous chest line. If you don't want it to be too deep, you can go up by 1 inch. I changed my mind. So I'm going to go up by 1 inch from this previous chest line. Remember, I went up by 2 inches while I was drafting. I want to do 1 inch for that center part of my corset. So I went inward by half an inch. I'm going to roll a straight line across this half an inch. Okay, this is the demarcation between the cups on corset. So I'm going to now place this curved part of my ruler and I'll connect from that 1 inch all the way to my under bust, just like you can see me doing. And then I'll connect from the dart leg back to the half an inch. In case you don't understand my explanation, you can go ahead and do what I'm doing. That is if you want to sew a corset with this pattern paper. The next thing I'll do is to measure this tiny line on this armhole area and I'll divide what I have there into two. What I have is 1 inch, half of 1 inch is half an inch. So I marked the middle. I'm going to place my ruler on the under bust line and I'll connect all the way to the half an inch, as you can see. So remember, I went up on this center front by 1 inch. I'm repeating the same thing for the side front. I'm going to connect this cup all the way to meet the 1 inch like this. And from that point, I'm going to connect from this dart leg to meet the 1 inch, just like this. So we have the cup. All I did was to create the cup out of what we already have, okay? But if you don't want a corset, just cut out your pattern, okay? Cut it out the way it is, okay? So after doing that, label your cups and then go ahead and cut. So this is exactly how you should cut your bustier if you are sewing a bustier. The only difference is I'm going to cut out the cups, okay? That's the only difference, okay? And the bustier has a sweetheart neckline. So I'll be cutting out the cup for the center front, and I'll also go ahead and cut out the cup for the side front, okay? So after doing that, on the side front, on the armhole area, I'm going to go up by 1 inch because the front and the back is supposed to align. So I'm going to just go up by 1 inch. I'll connect it and I'll cut off the excess pattern paper, okay? So now we are done with the front pattern, and this is what it looks like. Okay, I'm going to arrange the pattern paper in place just like you can see me doing. So like I said, for the shoulder, you can go ahead and cut out a long piece of fabric and then you gather to the shoulder area, or you can slash the pattern that we already cut out and just spread it on a long piece of fabric. It's still going to give you the same result. So for the back, I'm not adding zipper to my blouse, so I didn't add zipper allowance. I've gone ahead to rule out my lines. Shoulder to bust 10 inches, shoulder to waist 16 inches, and I added 7 inches from the waist, okay? So the next thing I did was to take half of my shoulder measurement. I added half an inch to it, so I marked 8.5 inches on the shoulder line. On that point, I came down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope and I slanted into the neckline area. So the next thing I did was to go down by 8 inches, which is half of my round armhole circumference. Okay, this line is going to be my chest line, the 8 inches line. Another way to get your chest line is to divide your bust circumference by 6 and then you add 1.5 inches to that measurement. So after doing that, I went ahead to roll straight line across that point. Okay, that's my chest line, and I connected the dots on the chest line and the dots on the shoulder slope into a straight line. The next thing I did was to place my bust circumference divided by 4 on the chest line. So what I'll do now is to connect from the center of this straight line to the dot on the chest line, okay? So the next thing I'll do is to take half of my nipple to nipple measurement, which is 4 inches. I'll mark the 4 inches on the blouse length, on the waistline, on the bust line, and on the chest line. And I'll connect the 4 dots into a straight line. To take in my dart, I'll be using half an inch on both sides of this straight line. And I'll do that on the waistline. If you're on the bigger side, you can do 1 inch on both sides, okay? So I'm marking half an inch on the center front, half an inch on the side front. Just like we did for the front, go ahead and determine the neckline for the back. So I'm still going up by 2 inches like I did for the front. I'll mark 2 inches and I'll rule a straight line across. After doing that, I'll go ahead and extend the dart leg to meet the new chest line, okay? So the next thing I'll do now is to go ahead and connect my dart. So my dart is going to stop on the chest line, okay, the previous chest line. So on this blouse length, I'll go up by 2.5 inches. That's the point where I'll start connecting the dot. So from the 2.5 inches, I'll connect all the way to the waistline, and then I'll connect from the waistline to the previous chest line. So the next thing I'll do is start placing my measurements. I already have my bust circumference divided by 4 on the chest line. I went ahead to add my stitching allowance of 1.5 inches. On the waistline, I'll place my waist circumference divided by 4. I'll replace the dart of 1 inch and I'll add my stitching allowance of 1.5 inches. On the hip line, I'll place my hip circumference divided by 4. I'll add 1.5 inches for my stitching allowance and I'll add another 1.5 inches for ease allowance, okay? After doing that, I'll connect from the chest to the waist and from there to meet the blouse length. And I'm going to extend these 2 inches just like I did for the front. I want to remove the armhole area. I'm not sure yet if it's going to be a tube blouse, but I'll remove it. If I want to open it up, I'll just cut it out, okay? So the next thing I'll do now is to go up by 2.5 inches just like we did for the front, and for the side I'll go up by 4 inches, I'll mark the middle from the side to the dart leg. I'll mark the center, and then I'm going to go ahead and connect. As you can see me doing, I'm using my ruler this time. Okay, I'll just connect like this. It must not be the same as the front, but make sure the sides are lined. That's the most important thing. Okay, so I went out by half an inch on the side, just like I did for the front. So I want to add loop to the back of my blouse, so I'm taking out 1 inch. That's because I don't want it to be too open, so I'm just taking out 1 inch from the back. Okay, if you don't want your blouse to be a tube bustier, you can maintain the armhole, or you can just come up a bit, maybe by 1 inch, just so the armhole is not too deep, just like you can see me doing. And if you don't want it at all, you can just leave it the way it is. Okay, for the neck depth, I'll be using 7 inches for the back, and for the width, I used the same 3 inches that I used for the front. Okay, so I'm going to connect like this using the same V neckline. So for this shoulder area, I'm repeating the same thing that I did for the front. I'll divide it by 2, and then I'm going to mark 1 inch apart. Okay, I'll mark 1 inch, I'll mark another 1 inch, and then I'll go ahead and connect just like you see me doing. And then I will number them 1 to 7, just so I don't get confused. That is if you want to do the slash and spread method. And because I don't want the back to be just straight, I'm going to give it a little curve. Okay, just like you can see me doing. And then I'll also curve out the armhole like this. I think I want to cut this part out. Okay, just so the armhole area does not poke me when I wear my blouse. Okay, so after doing that, guys, that is all. If you want to add a zipper to your blouse, don't forget to add your zipper allowance to the back. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and cut as you can see me doing. I'll open the dart up and I'll cut it out. Okay, so that is all, guys. That is all for the back pattern. Okay, so now that I've decided to trim off the armhole, I'll use the back armhole to trim off the front armhole. And you can see that it's really small. It's just like it's about 1 inch. That's because I don't want the armhole area to poke me when I wear it. Okay, so one important measurement you should take note of is where your pleat is going to stop, the pleat on the chest line. So you are going to measure from the center to where the pleat is supposed to stop. So if you cut out a long piece of fabric and you want to gather, you have to gather it to this particular measurement. Mine is 8.5 inches. That is times 2 now, because your fabric will be folded into 2. I hope you understand. So guys, that is all for this tutorial. Let me know if you want to see the sewing tutorial. So I'm not sewing this particular style in the sewing tutorial. I'm sewing the one that I drafted. So let me know if you want a tutorial.